Rock of Ages, 342.
Before we get started with anything else, I wanted to give you all an update on our mission trip to St. Augustine this week. We had a good time, and I know that we helped those poor folks down there who were in so much need and dire trouble after the hurricane and all that. At least 2 or 3 of the restaurants and souvenir shops are probably set for the rest of the month, and I think we kept the hotel in business because when we got there wasn't hardly anybody there, and I don't think there was anybody there really when we left. We noticed, or I noticed on Wednesday, that the no vacancy sign was still on. It'd been on all week, and the parking lot was practically empty. And then Wednesday we saw that there was somebody out there working on the sign, and I guess, I really would have liked to have been in there when that conversation happened between the manager and the desk clerk. Why are we so slow? And then the other one goes, well, maybe it's because the no vacancy sign is on. Anyhow, we had a good time, and we're thankful that the Lord gave us the opportunity to go. We're thankful that He got us back and forth safely. That was a little close there yesterday afternoon. We were coming back on I-20, and some, it was coming and practically almost made us have an accident coming back. But other than that, we did it. Everything was great. And I'm just thankful we got to do that. So before I do anything else, I think I need to make sure that I ask the Lord to help me with this so I don't mess it up. And we'll just do that right now. Father, I'm just thankful thankful again, Father, just for the opportunity to get up here and just share a few words with the folks. It's something that you have given me the opportunity over the years to think about. I don't know if fantasize is the right word, but just to be able to do it, cross it off the bucket list or whatever, however you want to express it. That's it's a blessing for me, and I'm thankful for it. Help me not to say anything I shouldn't say. Help me just to talk and speak what you want me to say. Just use me as a speaker, Lord. Just say what you have on your mind. And I ask this in your Son's name. Amen. I want to say a couple things about this book. All right. This has got a cover, some pages, some words printed in it. It's a book. It's the first Bible I ever bought for myself, and I've had it for about 18 years now. And I've read it all the way through a couple of times. I'm in the middle of doing it again. But it's more than a book, because this is one of the ways that God talks to us. And coming home yesterday afternoon, it occurred to me, and I never had really considered it in this particular wording. I don't know about y'all, but my prayer life is, I call my prayer life bird dog praying. Because I'll get up in the morning and say my prayer in the bed, before I get out of the bed. And then the rest of the day, it's little nuggets here and there. Thank you, Lord, for this, or help me, Lord, with that kind of stuff. Just little nuggets here and there. And it reminds me of that bird dog out there roaming around in the yard, going this way and that way, and over here he's like, well, the cat's been here, and over there, there's a little piece of a biscuit, and hot dog, somebody dropped a hot dog, That's the way my prayer life is, and I'm not especially proud of that. It's just the way that it works for me. I would prefer to spend more time in prayer, but I just don't make the time. But sometimes, when you are praying and you just feel like you're not really getting it, you're not really hearing anything, you're not sure that the Lord is listening to you, you're just not really connecting. We forget about the part about this right here that really helps, because when we're praying, we're usually the one doing the talking. And we're saying, thank you for this or whatever. But when you're reading this book right here, that's when God's talking to you. If your mind's open, if you're paying attention, if you're concentrating and you're focusing on Him, when you're reading this book, He's talking to you. You're not talking to Him. So that's why this book is important. The other thing about this book, and it's what's related to today, is that this book there's basically two things in this book. It's history and it's prophecy. It tells us what happened, and it tells us what's going to happen. All through this book, there's prophecies all through this book. Some of them are way, way past. They've already happened a long time ago. Little prophecies, it's big prophecies, all kinds of prophecies. When God told Noah he needed to build the ark because he was going to have 40 days and 40 nights of rain, that was a prophecy that's already been fulfilled. Jesus was full of prophecies, so he was telling us things, every day he was telling people different things, and they were all prophetic, because everything he prophesied about, he either fulfilled it or it's going to be fulfilled. So we need to remember that this book right here is about history and it's about prophecy. Now the question I got for y'all, and this is a serious question, and it's a question I'd like to hear an actual answer. Okay, I want your opinion, because what I want to know is are we on the same page? Whether we're reading from the same paragraph or not, metaphorically speaking, are we on the same page? What's the most relevant book in the Bible to y'all? I want your opinion. Revelation. That's great. I didn't think I was going to get any answers. I thought it was going to be, whatever. Revelation is, to me, the most relevant book in the Bible, because the main thing is that's the one that hadn't happened yet, or at least most of it hadn't happened yet. This is the book of Revelation is the one that's telling us what's going to happen, and it's fixing to come around the corner. Okay? We know that for a fact because Jesus told us that when all these things, when we see these signs, we know that this generation will not pass away until all these things have been fulfilled. That generation, the clock started ticking in 1948 when the nation of Israel was officially reclaimed and put back on the map. For me, the main thing about the book of Revelation is that that book is all the stuff that hasn't happened yet, we've been told about, but we tend to think, well, it doesn't really apply to us because we're not going to be here. And whether we all agree on when we leave or when we don't leave, it doesn't make any difference. We're supposed to be ready for whatever happens. Some of the stuff that's going to happen, I don't think we're going to have to deal with anyhow. But some of the stuff that's going to happen, there's a lot of people who need to know. And they're not going to hear it unless we tell them. And so what we need to be concerned about with the book of Revelation, with all the end prophecies, the book of Daniel is just as important as the book of Revelation in a lot of ways. It may not be as long and it may not have as much stuff in it. But there's some very important parts of the book of Daniel that apply to this end time. Things that would really help people if they knew it. I think the first mention of the abomination of desolation is in the book of Daniel. And so it's important that we know not just Revelation, but we know about the rest of the prophecies. The Old Testament is loaded with prophecies about the end times. You want to turn to, one of the confirmations I had about, what I wanted to talk about today came last night because I was sitting there reading and I just ended up on, I'm right at the middle of Jeremiah right now. And I hit Jeremiah 23. And if you feel like turning over there, you can. But Jeremiah 23 was where I am right now in my regular reading. I just hit it. And as soon as I looked at it, I said, well, there's your confirmation that you've got the right subject today. The heading or the title of it is the Coming Messiah, the Righteous Branch. And he starts out as, woe to the shepherds who are destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares the Lord. Therefore, thus says the Lord God of Israel concerning the shepherds who are tending my people. You have scattered my flock and driven them away and have not attended to them. Behold, I'm about to attend to you for the evil of your deeds, declares the Lord. This is the important part. Then I myself will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I have driven them and bring them back to their pasture, and they will be fruitful and multiply. I will also raise up shepherds over them, and they will tend them, and they will not be afraid any longer, nor terrified, nor will be any missing, declares the Lord. He's talking about, the people, the Jews that have been scattered all over the world being brought back to Israel. Well, look, that's going on in record rates now. I mean, there are organizations that are doing nothing but just helping Jewish people all around the world that want to get back to Israel, get back to Israel. They're being gathered, and that remnant that he was talking about is being collected. And that should give you at least a heads up that this is coming true right now. In Ezekiel 37, where he talked about the valley of the dry bones. Anybody remember that, or is that kind of familiar? All right. Well, that valley, the vision of the valley of the dry bones, is another reference specifically to Israel being regathered back. Let's talk about that for just a second. It says, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me out of the spirit of the Lord, set me down in the middle of the valley, and it was full of bones. He caused me to pass among them round about, and behold, there were many, very many on the surface of the valley, and lo, they were very dry. He said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? I saw a guy on TV one day, and I'm not going to mention him because some people think he's kind of a nut. But at any rate, he was talking about his vision about the valley of the dry bones. And it occurred to him that when he read that, the first thing that popped in his mind was the pictures of the ovens at the concentration camps when they opened up the ovens and saw all the bones and everything in the concentration camps. And he thought, those were those dry bones, those Jews that had died. Can they live again? In 1948, they came to life again. And so that's another confirmation of what we're talking about as far as the nation of Israel being brought back together and these times coming to an end. We get over here to Matthew 24, and this is the Lord himself talking about the end times and what's fixing to happen. And there are several things in here that talk about, but I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. I just want to get to this part where he says, "Now learn from the parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So you too, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near, right at the door. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place." That stuff has already started. This generation is the one we're talking about right now. This is our generation. And this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Somebody that was alive in 1948 is going to be alive when all of this is completed, when Armageddon's over, and when he comes back and he stands on the Mount of Olives and is ready to begin his reign. So we are 71 years into that generation he's talking about. It's not going to be that much longer. I mean, if he wants to find, if he's talking about one of those old folks over in Japan that lives till they're 140, I mean, maybe that's what he's got in mind, but I don't think it's going to be that long. And it doesn't take much to look at the news and figure that out. So we're on the clock. We need to be about whatever it is we're going to do or whatever it is that God needs us to do so that these things can be fulfilled and we can get finished with it. The book of Revelation itself, whether or not we have to worry about any of it or not is, it's another subject for another day. But it's not in there for no reason. This is not one of those books that we can say, well, I'm not going to read it because I'm not worried about it. I don't have to worry about it. After the 3rd chapter, I'm gone, I don't have to worry about it. He put that in there for a reason. We need to be aware of it. Even if you don't really want to read it, if you can't understand it, there's a way to read this book and to figure it out. I read a book, Daddy gave it to me, it's been several years ago, and it was called There's a New World Coming. And it was a line-by-line book, or a line-by-line explanation. It was written by Hal Lindsey, and it was about the book of Revelation. It was a good book. I didn't agree with everything he said in it, but that's just because some of his conclusions I thought, were kind of dated. He wrote the book in the 80s, and here it is, 30 years later, and it became obvious that some of the things that he wrote, he just really didn't know it was going to happen. Best example of that is the New World religion that's coming. He thought was going to be about astrology. And the main reason for that was because it had something to do with the way the Babylonians, their religion was about astrology, things like that. I'm more inclined to think that if it has anything to do with, feeling or whatever in the people, it's going to be more about the environment and ecology and that kind of stuff. Because you can see that a lot of the so-called green movement and everything is a little bit off the deep end, and they're kind of into, more than just protecting the planet. A good example of that is I read an article that Mikhail Gorbachev, which I don't know, I think most of us remember him, wrote about 25 years ago, in which he has a think tank now, where he says it's all about the environment and ecology, but it's more like, he's just trying to find a way to, to rule the world from his own little corner in his office. But he said that he wanted to see I don't know if he said the United Nations in particular, but he wanted to see a new 10 Commandments that was based on protecting the planet and that kind of stuff. And he did use the word 10 Commandments. That was, when I read that, it just hit me like, square in the head. I mean, what else do you need? I mean, what other confirmation do you need that that's what we're talking about? Well, when Hal Lindsey said it was going to be astrology, I thought, I don't agree with that. But the rest of the book helped me in a lot of ways, because this idea that you can study the book of Revelation or any book in the Bible line by line and take it apart. It reminded me a lot of when I was in grade school and we were doing grammar and we would diagram sentences. It's the same basic concept. Well, for me, when, the last 12, 13 years, I've been just basically stuck, in prophecies. And I don't know how many times I've read Revelation the last 10 or 12 years, at least half a dozen times. And gradually you start to pick things up. And one of the things that has helped me is I've learned what I do is I kind of identify specific stepping stones. Because the book is so full of symbolism and everything like that, sometimes it just goes over your head. But if you can pick out some things that you can perfectly recognize, they're just pointed right out to you. It's not a matter of you guessing. It's a matter of, the Lord was telling John, he says, now let me explain the vision to you. It's the same thing with Revelation. And one of the best examples of that is, I think it's 14, let me look here. I got it. Turn to Revelation. You might as well go ahead and do it. And let's see, is 17? Yes. Revelation 17:7. We're talking about the harlot, in the Babylonian harlot version. But this is one of those instances where you don't have to guess who we're talking about. They're telling you exactly who you're talking about. This is a stepping stone. That's what you want to do when you're going to read Revelation. You're trying to learn from it. Identify the stepping stones. Find the places that you don't have to guess what he's talking about. All right, 17:7. And the angel said to me, why do you wonder? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which is the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Now, is that right there? You're kind of thinking the 7 heads and the 10 horns. What's he talking about? It's kind of hard to figure it out. The beast that you saw was and is not and is about to come out of the abyss and go to destruction. He's talking about the Antichrist, I think. The beast. And those who dwell on the earth, whose name has not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will wonder when they see the beast that he was and is not and will come. He's talking about how he's going to get killed and then come back to life and then he's dead again. Here is the mind which has wisdom. Anytime you read anything like that in the Bible, they're trying to give you a clue to figure something out. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There's only one city in the world that's famous for being surrounded by 7 mountains, and that's Rome. So we're talking about Babylon is not Babylon in Iraq. We're not talking about somewhere else in the Middle East or anywhere else. When we're talking about Babylon, we're basically talking about Rome. There's only a couple things in Rome, and one of the main things is the Vatican and the head of the Catholic Church and all of that. So it makes you wonder, are we talking about the Catholic Church? Is the harlot the Catholic Church? I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure. And I think it's a pretty clear stepping stone that that's what we're talking about. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, and they are 7 kings. 5 have fallen, one is, the other one has not yet come. And they're talking about now, what we're talking about is these 7 kings. One has come, one hasn't, and one's going to come, and all of that. You start to get a little confusing about how that works out. But he's talking about the different. You're talking the Roman Catholic Church, the Holy Roman Catholic Empire, that whole business, the different incarnations of the Roman Catholic Church and the Empire. And it goes all back to the fact that, this harlot is in Rome and is more than likely the Catholic Church. I hate to say anything bad about the Catholic Church, but that's the way it seems to read. The beast which was and is not is himself also an 8th and is one of the 7, and he goes to destruction. We're talking about the Antichrist is going to be somebody who's from the Holy Roman Empire. That Holy Roman Empire is, if you want to add it up or try to dissect it, we're talking about basically the European Union now. Because it's the same place. It's the same area, same country, same thing, whoever the Antichrist is going to come out of basically that European Union. There's a couple of good candidates, but we're not going to get into that right now. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received the kingdom, but they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. That's the European Union again. And they give their power and authority to the beast. My point here is that this whole thing is pretty clear if you will just stop and read it and start to apply current events. The stepping stones are there to be, you don't have to even guess at them. You can just read it and it comes right out. That part about the 7 mountains, I don't think it could be any clearer. You know, I mean, I really don't think any of this in the Bible, especially in the book of Revelation, could be any clearer than that. There's a lot of other things in here that I'm not going to get into because it's kind of a controversial point. I think part of it, and Mom told me not to say anything about it. There's parts of it that, you know, I think, me personally, I think we're already over into about let's see, chapter 9 of Revelation. Because me personally, I think we're already about to the 6th trumpet, but we're not going to get into that. What we can say is that this book is a warning for us, and we need to pay attention to it. We need to study it. We don't need to be afraid of it. First few times I read Revelation, it made me kind of like, I don't want to read this anymore. But Revelation is not for that. Revelation is a warning, and Revelation is an instruction. We need to be paying attention to this. We're here in church right now, and we're probably all set. See, I hope that I am wrong about what I think in this book. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that the rapture happens at the start of the 7 years and we're gone. Because if that's the case, he could come today, there wouldn't be nothing to keep him from coming. Okay? And I'm ready to go. If I could have stayed in St. Augustine for another 4 or 5 months, maybe I'd be wanting to wait a little bit longer. But I'm ready to go now. Because I'm ready for the crap in the world to kind of get out of my life. It's a 4-letter word, but it's not a bad word. I'm ready for the things that God has for us in the future. As long as I have an empty chair at my table, nothing is going to be the same. And that's not going to that chair ain't going to be filled again until the Lord comes back. Till he calls us out of here. I don't want me to just die and go, and I don't want any, I don't want this trickle down thing, where one of us goes and we have another funeral. I'm ready for the Lord to come on back in the clouds and get us. Okay? That's what I'm ready for. I am ready for chapter 14, where the reapers, he says, then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud was one like a son of man, having a golden crown on his head, and a sharp sickle in his hand. And another angel came out of the temple, crying out with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap is come, because the harvest of the earth is ripe. I'm ready for that. Now, I can't help it if it's in chapter 14 of Revelation, and not at the beginning. But he said, the cloud, the one with the crown on the cloud was the Son of Man. I mean, I think it's a rapture, but I could be wrong. It'd be okay with me if I was wrong. It would be fine with me if it was right at the start. If it happened today, I'd love it. I'm ready to go. Problem is, how many of y'all have got people that you know that you love that are not ready? I mean, we got a wonderful church, and the people in this church are great people that I love. I'm glad for us to all be here, but the fact is we're half empty, and there's a whole pile of people out there that are riding 4-wheelers and doing whatever else they're doing, and they don't seem to realize or care that we're right around the corner, from being out of here and them being stuck. We need to be busy. Whether we want to really care about what's in Revelation or not, they need to care because they're fixing to go through it. This is going to be rough for a lot of people. We have a a job that we're supposed to be doing, and frankly, I think we're a little lazy about it. I mean, it's not that we don't have enough stuff on our plate, but, you know, if all we can do is pray for people, well, that's good, but that's not really, you know, that's not going the extra mile with it. You know, when we talk about, you know, people that we know are lost, we think, you know, well, I can't make them get right, but I can pray for them. Well, the Lord would be like, you know, well, I appreciate that, and you're doing a good job and everything, but, you know, I'm kind of busy since you're not going to pick up the slack and go over there and actually talk to them, and I need you to go talk to them. I mean, that's part of the deal. We need to be about filling this church, not so much because we want full pews and everything. We need to be about it because until everybody who is going to be saved is saved, we have to keep dealing with it. If we want to get through with the job, we need to get to working on it. And that means that when we leave out of here, you know, we need to start working on it. We need to, you know, you talk about Friends Day, fine. We need to be asking people. And I'm the worst one about stuff like that. I don't ask people to come to church with me. But I need to. I know plenty of people that are just as lost as they can be. I don't know how else to explain it, folks. We just need to get busy. So I'm ready to go. I don't know what everybody else is waiting on. I'm ready to go. I'm tired of waiting on everybody else. But I'm ready to go. And if I've got to get out there and start asking people to come to church just to get them in here so I can get out of here, then that's what we need to be doing, what I need to be doing. Anyway, I could spend all day talking about Revelation, but I love it. I mean, and ever since I started actually kind of getting a grip on it, and Daniel's the same way, I could talk about it all day. But I know y'all don't want to do that, and I don't want to get egged or rocks thrown at me on the way out, but that was the story. There's one other thing I want to do before I shut up and sit back down. I kind of like us all to kind of come up and just have a prayer real quick of a dedication. You know, if y'all are willing to do it, a prayer where we dedicate ourselves as a church to getting busy with not just filling this place up, but getting everybody ready to go. If you got people that you know are not ready to go, let's just come up here and let's just dedicate ourselves to reaching out to them. Because that's the main thing we've got to do. Now, I think if we do that, it'll be. Look, I don't get told nobody's hand. No, I don't think so. I'm so thankful that we are here today together in your house with you here with us and among us. We are offering ourselves, Father, for your service. We want to dedicate ourselves in our church to do what you need us to do to get ready for your kingdom. We need your help, Father, to reach out to the people that would come here if we can reach them. I mean, I don't know how else to explain that. You know better than I do. But there are people that we can reach personally. And the rest of them we could just pray for. We just have to do that. But there's a lot of people out there in the world, Father, that we need to get a hold of. And that you're trying to get a hold of. And until they're done, I mean, until we reach everybody that's going to be saved, we're going to have to keep dealing with the mess that we've got here. And it's not going to get better until your son comes. And I'm ready for your son to come right now. I think every one of us here are ready for your son to come right now. But we don't want to miss out. We don't want to leave the ones behind that we want to have go. We know, every one of us knows somebody that we don't want to leave behind. I mean, we don't want to do like the little kid on the movie, you know, that got left behind, and, you know, when everybody else went on the trip. I mean, we don't want to do that. We want to get everybody in. there's people that we just don't want to see, you know, go through hell, and we'd like to do what we can about it. We need your help, Father, and we need you to just guide us, guide our path, lead our steps, speak to us, show us what to do. Put a sign up, you know. I mean, give us the direction. If you want to fill this place with flaming tongues of fire, that's okay too. I mean, I think we can wait a little while, but I mean, just show us what it is that you want us to do and help us to do it, Father. Help this church to be a magnet. Not because of the church itself, but because we're trying to get ready for your Son's return. Lord, we just say thank you for all of this, and especially for your Son, Jesus. And we ask these things in his name. Amen. All right, whoever wants to sing, can sing. You want me to tell you what I talked about last week? Song, y'all.
Nothing but the blood, page 337.
He wasn't here.
Jesus, oh, precious is the Glad we did our good